Conservatives, 40 NDP, 7 Liberal, and 1 Green member. At dissolution a little over a month ago, there were 67 Progressive Conservatives, 38 NDP, 7 Liberals, 1 Green, and 8 Independents. So there was some movement during the last few months and years. So our panelists tonight are articulate, intelligent, and politically astute, and they're ready to help us report and interpret tonight's election results. So within the Rogers TV coverage area, we have 2 ridings that we'll be looking after. The first is Dufferin Caledon, which is the town of Caledon and the county of Dufferin. And then secondly is the riding of Wellington, Halton Hills, which encompasses Erin in our viewing area. So we'll be providing you with the results as they come in for both ridings as well as for the provincial results. So let's get a sense from our panelists of what they think will happen tonight, both locally and provincially. So Alethea, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Wow,
Yeah.
I love the hot seat. So, locally, before I even give you my predictions, I have to say that locally we've had some amazing new leaders that emerged and ran some amazing campaigns. And I have to say the NDP candidate and the Green Party candidate stood out for me in terms of their campaign strategy and how they were able to execute. Likewise, in the Erin, Halton area, the same results I'm seeing. However, I think tonight the results are going to be blue again. So that's my prediction. We'll see how the polls come in tonight.
Okay, Cheryl?
Well, I don't think we're going to get anyone to take the other side of that bet. I think this one's pretty safe, that these are both pretty safe PC seats. If we're going to listen to all of the polls province-wide, everyone is predicting a landslide PC victory, which is very bad news for Stephen Del Duca, who may not even win his own seat in Vaughan Woodbridge. So that's, you know, there are going to be some exciting races. Hopefully, polls have been wrong before, so we'll see whether, you know, who came out to vote today.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about some of the close races as the evening progresses. The media have been talking to us about which races are close, and to your point, Stephen Del Duca is in a huge fight to retake his Vaughan Woodbridge seat. He had held that seat for a couple of terms, and he lost by 8,000 votes to a first-time candidate, Michael Trebello. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. And the latest polls apparently show that the riding is quite tight. But we'll find out later tonight if that actually, so, you know, Doug Ford is looking very safe in his Etobicoke North riding, and Andrea is looking very safe in her Hamilton area riding. So, you know, there will probably not be a lot of surprises from that standpoint. And for our viewers, the way that the balloting works provincially is a little different than it works federally. Federally, all the ballots are counted by hand because the federal government has not gone to electronic balloting, whereas the province has. So the polls are now officially closed, and they just have to push a button on the voting machine, and they should instantly have results. So we should start seeing, you know, results not just for our riding, but for other ridings all around the province pretty quickly.
So there are 19 polls that have extended voting. That's what I heard on the way here. Some up to 2 hours. So there are going to be some late polls reporting for a variety of technical issues, power outages and equipment failures. So we don't know where those polls are yet and whether they're going to be any of the close ridings. Okay,
I'm just finding out that our riding is one of the ones that's affected.
Oh, interesting.
Okay. Sorry. My mistake. It is not affected. So we should start getting results for this riding very soon, because all they've basically got to do is to push a button on the machine, and it gives them the totals for each of the candidates for the people that have voted. So just to run through the candidates for Dufferin Caledon, we've got Laura Campbell for the Green Party, Bob Gordonier for the Liberal Party, Sylvia Jones, the incumbent for the PC Party, Tess Prendergast, the NDP candidate, Andrea Banier, the New Blue Party candidate, Eric Umar Emmanuel for the Ontario Moderate Party, Lily Nugent for the Ontario Party, and Kay Sayer for the Public Benefit Party. And I think, Alethea, you've got the list of candidates for Wellington, Halton Hills, correct?
So I have the list for the four main parties, and we have Ted Arnott for the PC. We have Ryan Carew for the Green Party, Carew for the Green Party, and Diane Valentine for the NDP, and Tom Takas for the Liberal Party.
Cool. Okay. All right.
And Ted Arnott being the incumbent there.
Yeah, Ted
Yes.
Arnott has actually been the provincial PC member since 1990. So if I counted correctly earlier, he is 8-term MPP.
Wow.
And Sylvia, if what we think is going to happen tonight, will become a 5th-term MPP. So both of them have longevity,
Yes.
and Ted's one of the longest serving MPPs in the Ontario legislature for probably a long time. I can remember Bob Nixon when he was elected for the Provincial Liberals. He was there for longer than that. And I'm sure there's others, but that's the one that comes to my mind right away. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting. And I'm on the spot as well. I'm in agreement that it looks like the incumbents are going to get reelected, and in all probability, they're going to be easily reelected if the polls are correct, because the polls have got both of them sitting around the 50% mark. So, that's a pretty resounding, victory.
It's a solid win.
Yeah.
So then we can make a prediction for second place.
Yes, go ahead. Be my guest, please.
Well, I've seen two different. Fair Vote puts it in Greens coming in second, and I've also seen others saying Liberals. So,
Interesting.
Yeah, have you seen anything?
I haven't seen that prediction with the Greens coming in second. I have seen a toss-up between Liberals and the NDP. However, I'm thinking that the Greens are definitely going to have a lot more votes than they did in the last election.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how
So when
things
I was
play out.
on votewell.ca, which aggregates all the polling information available, they had the Greens at 17%, the NDP at 14%, I believe, and the Liberals at 13%. And if that ends up being the case, that'll be the same as the 2018 results. Mm-hmm. No. Yeah, I think so.
Oh, here's our first Dufferin Caledon results.
Yeah, so we've
there you
got
go.
one poll reporting, and it is a landslide at the moment for Sylvia Jones, with Laura Campbell in second place and Bob Gordonier in third place, and Tess quite a bit below. But please bear in mind that we've only had 1 out of 61 polls reporting. And then at the bottom of the screen, it's showing that the PCs have elected or are leading in 16 ridings, NDP 4, Liberal 2, and Green 1. So with
that's a strong showing for the New Blue Party there.
Yes, so far, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
So the New Blue Party is a spin-off of disaffected progressive conservatives. Mm-hmm. And they're, one of their MPPs, whose name is just escaping me at the moment, from Cambridge riding,
Jim Karagianis.
Karahalos,
Yeah.
left the PC party over COVID protocols. And she and her husband formed the New Blue Party, and Andrea Banier is their candidate in Dufferin Caledon. So no results in yet for for Wellington, Halton Hills. Out of the 57 polls, no results as of yet. So, and we're still looking at 1 out of 61 polls reporting in the Dufferin Caledon riding. So we've also worked really hard to put together a list of special guests that are going to be talking to us about the election from their point of view. Oh, okay. So I understand we have Annette Groves on the line. Annette, are you there?
Yes, I am. Ruth, thank you.
Hey, Annette. It's great to hear your voice, and congrats on your announcement for mayor. And I'll turn it over to Cheryl.
Yeah, so we should introduce Annette first. Annette Groves is the regional councillor representing the Bolton riding, and she has announced that she is running for mayor this election. Annette, I wanted to ask you, obviously the Highway 413 is a huge issue to residents in Caledon and in your community of Bolton. If the polls are correct tonight and Doug Ford wins his majority government with a plan to bring that highway forward, what do you think, is there anything that the residents opposed to it can still do?
Thank you, Cheryl, for the introduction, and thank you for the question. If the polls are correct, which I'm not sure what is happening, but if that should happen, I think residents still need to continue to advocate. I know that we're still waiting to hear from the federal government on the impact assessment that needs to be done. So we have not heard anything back, and I think that that's something that we should continue to pursue, as well as the First Nations. I know that the First Nations, they've expressed some concern. I'm not sure that that's even been addressed either, so I think we still have some opportunity to do that.
That's great. And Annette, you're one of the few councillors that has stood up against the sprawl agenda and against Highway 413. Do you want to tell us why you haven't supported those initiatives?
Sure, absolutely. So a couple of reasons. I mean, we've heard from a number of residents here in Caledon, and they've expressed a lot of concerns with regards to the impact this highway will have on the environment and climate change. And as you know, Cheryl, you might be aware that Caledon has a climate change action plan to reduce GHGs in the next 50 years. And so, you know, building the highway and encouraging more traffic on that highway really goes against the whole climate change action plan and also the environment. So, you know, I think we need to take a look at what sort of impact this highway will have on our community. With respect to sprawl, as you know, there's 11,000 acres of land that has been brought inside the urban boundaries. And the concern that I have a number of concerns. First of all, who's going to pay for it? Because I don't think that the residents should be paying for this growth. And Caledon has not done a financial analysis on that. So that's concerning for myself as a councillor, as a resident, because currently the residents are really the ones taking paying the brunt of the taxes. The other concern that I have is with respect to food security. We've been hearing this over the news for the last few months, especially with the war in the Ukraine, and we don't want to be relying on other countries to supply our food. We can grow our own food right here, and as you know, Cheryl, the Peel Plain has some of the best soil for growing our food locally. So those are huge concerns for me. And I really think that we need to really take a good pause and have a really good look at this. Right now in Caledon, developers are driving the train when it comes to development. And you know that, Baidu, that's very expensive. It's costly. when that happens. And I think we need to take a real good hard look at what we can afford, and really what we want Caledon to look like. And if we continue to allow the developers to drive the train, we'll have no say in any of that.
That's great, Annette. Thank you for standing up for all of those residents that are concerned about food security and don't think that we needed a $10 billion highway when there's so many other ways we could spend that money. So thank you very much for taking the time to call in to us tonight, and best of luck on your campaign.
Yep. Thanks, Annette.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate
Thanks
it.
very much.
Okay. Take care. Bye-bye.
Have a good night.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so we've got some newer results in, and we've now got 8 polls out of 61, and Sylvia Jones has a very large lead over Laura Campbell and Bob Gordonier and Tess, and that's how they're running. And in Wellington, Halton Hills, we've only got 1 poll out of 57 reporting, and Ted Arnott is well in the lead, followed by Tom Takacs of the Liberal Party. And then if you'll look at the results at the bottom of the screen, the PC Party has elected or leading in 53 ridings, and they need 63 or 64 to have a majority government. 63 to have a majority government, because we have 124 ridings. So simple arithmetic says it's 63. So they're
the Liberals just lost one. I was going to say they're 8. They did better than 2018, but it just dropped to 7 from 8. So
hi, Steve. Are you there? Hello?
Hang on.
Okay.
Go again.
Okay.
On television. Go.
Hi, Steve. Are you with us?
Yeah, could you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Hi, it's Bruce Walkinshaw. How you doing?
Not bad, not bad. What I was saying is that I was watching the same polling numbers, or the numbers rather, coming in, and I saw that the Liberals, actually they went from 8 to 7, now down to 6, surprisingly.
Okay, on our screen it's still showing us 7. So Alethea is going to introduce you, and she's got some really tough questions to ask you, okay?
Let's go for it.
Steve is used to the tough questions. Welcome, Steve, and thank you for calling in. For our listeners and viewers who don't know Steve Anderson, Steve is the Deputy Mayor for the town of Shelburne and County Councillor for Dufferin County. And Steve is an author of a book, Driven to Succeed, and he is a champion for the community. His slogan in the last campaign was Stronger Together, and of course, Steve is up for re-election in the upcoming municipal election. So, welcome, Steve, and thank you for taking the time to chat with us tonight.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me again.
Awesome. So we do have some tough questions for you. The first question, in your capacity as either Deputy Mayor for the town of Shelburne or a councillor, what are some of the changes and impacts that you would like to see from the new government once they're settled in for the new term?
Geez, how long is the program? Because,
maybe your top 2.
I don't know if you want the short version or the long version, but in the sake of time, I would simply say that more funding, reliable funding for municipalities, which obviously would benefit Shelburne and the county of Dufferin as a whole. I think, as we all know, there has been some reduced funding in that portfolio, particularly the Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund, which is the main source of funding from the province to municipalities. And again, we've seen decreases there. So it's hard as a municipality to budget, to plan, when that funding portfolio that you really rely on so heavily is being reduced. There has been an injection by the province as of late, and so we're happy to see that, but certainly we'd like to see more support in that area.
Okay, I like that. When you talk about funding and support, I know last term the government invested in the long-term care facilities, specifically in the town of Shelburne. Is this something that is still a priority for the community or residents?
Well, absolutely. I mean, as you know, Alethea, I was at a funding announcement with MPP Sylvia Jones, and the CEO of Southbridge, where they announced that they were implementing 60-plus new beds in our facility here in Shelburne. And while that's important, we have to make sure that we have the people to monitor and manage those beds. And so it's a fantastic start. Is it still a priority? Of course, health, what we've seen during the course of the pandemic, is a priority for all of us. And it's something that we need to be focused on, not just for now, but certainly for the future. And so while we're grateful to see the initiatives so far by way of health taking place in Shelburne, certainly there's a lot more. And you could rest assured that I'll be there advocating for it.
Awesome. My last question for you, in terms of affordable housing, is that something that is a priority for council as well?
Listen, let me just say that anything that's going to benefit our residents in the town of Shelburne is a priority. So whether that's transit, it's health, it's recreation, it's jobs. So to answer your question, absolutely, it's a priority. And as an elected official, my job is to work with our partners, our municipal partners, and certainly the province to make sure that the things that we need to grow, especially, we're one of the fastest growing in the county, that we have what we need because our residents deserve it.
Awesome. I'm happy that you touched on transit, because of course that is a priority, especially with the growing population in not just Shelburne, but overall Dufferin County, and making sure that we're able to get our young people from location to location, especially for jobs. So thank you for bringing that up. Did you have any closing comments that you would like to leave with us for tonight?
Well, first of all, you guys are doing a fantastic job as always. I'm always tuning in and listening. I hope to see the tradition continue. And I also want to say, listen, congratulations to certainly the four main parties in Dufferin County who ran a strong campaign. And as you are, and all of you are excited to see how the night is going to shake out for those in Dufferin County. I haven't seen that as of yet. As you know, Alethea, I'm currently in Saskatchewan right now, so it's kind of hard for me to track the numbers. So I'm totally relying on you guys to get my information, my fix, and so yeah, that's what I'll be doing for the rest of the evening. But thank you all for the work that you're doing.
Perfect. Thanks, Steve. Good to hear from you. Have a great evening.
All right, bye-bye.
Take care.
Thanks. Okay, we have another special guest on the line, Alex Ihama, who is the Executive Director of the Canadian Congress on Inclusive Diversity and Workplace Equity. That is a mouthful. Alex, are you on the line?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm Bruce, and I'll pass you over to Alethea, okay?
Okay.
Hi, Alex. How are you?
I'm doing well, Alethea. How are you doing?
I am wonderful. So good to have you. Thank you for calling in.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
No problem. So we just had a great conversation with Deputy Mayor Steve Anderson, and now we're going to put you in the hot seat. So you are a community advocate champion, and you know, with your organization, the Congress, you spread love to help combat anti-Black racism and hate right across the globe, really. So some of the questions I have for you are focused around equity. And the first question I have is, with the previous term's government, they launched an initiative called the Graduation Coach for Black Students. The aim of this program was to help Black students graduate and excel in and out of the classroom. And as we know, statistically, the outcomes for Black students are significantly lower than their peers in the education sector. Data also shows that systemic racism is a cause of this outcome. Do you think this program is enough to help our Black and especially our Indigenous students succeed?
Well, I mean, like we've always said, not even close. Not even close at all. I consider programs like this a band-aid solution, right? We must learn to address issues from the roots. Black students are significantly lower than their white peers in the educational sector. So what privilege have been accorded to their white peers that are consciously or subconsciously denied to Black and Indigenous students? Is there balanced representation in the academic and non-academic staff? We must also look at the contents of the curriculum, right? Keeping in mind that most of these curriculums are based on Eurocentric values, right? Devoid of the diversity we enjoy in Canada today. You know, so what we need, frankly, in the educational sector and system is an overhaul from how students are admitted, what they are taught, how they are taught, who are teaching them, how they are rated. Like we look at some of the EQAO exams and some of these exams that are done, they have been proven now that the reason that immigrants are falling behind in those exams is because those exams presume you were born and raised here, completely devoid of Canada's decision or plan to bring immigrants into the country. So immigrants are flocking into the country. They want to take 3 million immigrants within the next 3-4 years. The educational system is not even ready to accommodate them.
Right. So
certainly that's not, to me, I consider those band a solution. We need to address the roots.
Perfect. That's a nice segue into my next question for you, Alex. And the question is, what are your thoughts around mandatory education or mandatory curriculum for the Indigenous history as well as Black history?
Yeah, so that is something we've been advocating for years. And I was speaking to Rosemary Salia the other day, 23-year president of the Ontario Black History Society. I mean, she was born and raised there. Her parents, grandparents from 17-something, they've tracked it. So she's one of those few Black people who's from here, although people keep asking her, where are you from? Where are you from? As she told me. Yeah, so yes, we make this mandatory. Again, I would say that would be a big win. No doubt that would help to a degree, but again, only fundamental, right? So if you just say, let's have mandatory Black and Indigenous history without a deep understanding of the roots of the issue, then that may be a banded solution as well. It is great to make Indigenous history and Black history mandatory for the school system, no question. Many of us are advocating for that.
Right.
However, Alicia, these will only stimulate the mind. And you and I know fully well that all the issues of the heart, we all know, flow from all the issues of mankind flow from the heart. So racism is not necessarily a mind issue. We have people who have PhD and they are racist. So it's not the education that makes, or the lack of makes you racist, it's the heart.
Perfect.
Racism is a heart issue. And so are discrimination, extremism, prejudice, and bias of all kinds. So making history, Indigenous and Black history mandatory, would that have transformed the hearts of the shooters in the supermarket in Buffalo, in the school in Texas, and now in the hospital in Tulsa?
Sorry, Alex, I hate to interrupt you because you have some really good nuggets that you're sharing with us, but we have another guest that we're going to take a call from as well. So thank you so much for your time, and you've given us some really good nuggets that we can hopefully hold the new government accountable with.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alex.
Your call.
Okay.
And Bruce, we should say that Sylvia Jones has been declared.
They've declared that Sylvia has been reelected, and the PCs will form a majority government based on the numbers that we're currently seeing. We have one of the Wellington Halton Hills candidates, Tom Takacs, who is the Liberal candidate on the line. Tom, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you very much for having me on board.
Hey, thank you. It's great to talk to you. We've been texting a few times and emailing. So you've got a really interesting bio as a first-generation Canadian born in Elliott Lake and a Eastern European background, and your education in the trades and your expertise there is quite interesting, and our understanding is that this is the third time that you've run as a candidate. So how was your experience in running in Wellington Halton Hills?
How was my experience? I actually ran, this is my fourth election.
Oh.
I ran in in the 2018 election, provincial election, and I ran in 2 federal elections.
Okay.
So this would be considered my fourth.
Oh, okay. I hadn't read about the 2018 provincial. I'd only seen information about 2019 and 2021, so wow.
Oh, yeah. I guess they didn't want to bring that to fruition.
So cool. So How did you find campaigning in a primarily rural-based riding compared to the urban ridings in Mississauga that you had run in previously?
Well, a lot of fresh air, beautiful landscaping, great heritage, and beautiful people.
Cool.
You cannot have it any better than this.
Cool. And how did you find your reception at the door?
Oh, fabulous, fabulous. I'm not here to do any comparables, but I must say, right from the first day we collaborated, it's been nothing but positive and supportive.
That's excellent. We're all happy to hear that. So that's very cool. And do you have a message for us in terms of what you'd like to see going forward?
Well, I would like a bit of a humanitarian in the fact that, you know, we are living through very difficult times, unpredictable times. And I believe that we have to take care of our young people. We have to take care of their future, the affordabilities, our health care, and our seniors, because, you know, I'm getting up that age, and so is everybody else, and we have to start thinking about these type of issues, and because if we don't, then we'll all be left behind. And so I believe, and also what's really important is our environment. We only have one planet. You know, if you don't have drinking water and you don't have farmers to field the fields for grain and food and chickens, and what are you gonna eat? Frozen dinners? So you know, we need to open up our minds broader than the concrete that travels from a truck onto a ground that is preserved for nature, not being covered and sealed up like a vacuum. So yes, I believe it's time that we come down to reality, and you know, because we're all going to be in that same boat.
Yep. So where do you go from here?
Well, I'm getting up there in age. Another 4 years. I believe the federal election is 2025. Another 4 years here would put you at 2026. Kind of get into my retirement years, if you want to put it that way.
Yeah.
Would I challenge it again? If there's an opportunity, to spread my voice, my care, how much I care, how much I feel strongly about our society and our direction where we're heading, then yeah, I'll take a plunge into it. If someone's willing to bring me on board, and you know, and show them, you know, how I feel and how deeply compassionate I am about our society within the world that we're slowly not looking after as we continue to grow older. And yeah, I would take the plunge and the challenge again. I find it very satisfying, and
okay.
Especially when you see people, they smile at you and they talk to you and they shake your hands and you know, and they feel for you and you hear their cries. I mean, this is what it's all about. This is what it's all about. I am a servant, and I took on this position as a servant.
Cool. No, that's fantastic, and we really appreciate you taking time on election night to speak with us and to bring you know, some words from Wellington, Halton Hills. So appreciate your time and good luck going forward. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you so much, and God bless.
Okay, thank you. You too.
Thank you.
Good night. Okay.
Good night, Joe.
So that was Tom Takacs, who was the Liberal candidate for Wellington, Halton Hills. Sylvia Jones has been declared the winner in Dufferin Caledon, and Laura Campbell is still running second. Bob Gordonier is running third. Ted Arnett in Wellington, Halton Hills has been declared the winner. He's been the MPP since 1990, so he's been around for a lot of terms, and he'll be back again representing Wellington, Halton Hills again. We've got results coming in from Etobicoke North, where Doug Ford has a good lead over the Liberal candidate, Julie Lutette, and the NDP. And at the moment, the PCs are solidly in majority territory. They've elected or leading in 74 ridings. The NDP are elected or leading in 28, and the Liberals are 9 and 10, depending on the screen. And Mike Schreiner has been declared elected in Guelph, so the leader of the Green Party will be returning to Queen's Park, and he has a very large lead over his competition. So, and one of the other ridings that is being closely watched tonight is the Muskoka area riding, where the Green Party is hoping to make a breakthrough for a second seat. Hamilton Centre, Andrea Horvath's NDP riding. Andrea has been easily re-elected the leader. This is her 5th election as the leader of the NDP party, and she has an insurmountable lead over her challengers. So Andrea will be back in the House again, and there's a lot of speculation about where she is going to end up. In Vaughan Woodbridge, with 11 out of 38 polls, Michael Tabolo has a very large lead over the Liberal leader, Stephen Del Duca. At the moment, definitely not looking good for Stephen Del Duca to win his seat back, but as I said, there's only 11 out of 38 polls that are counted. So the PCs are up to 77 ridings elected or leading. The NDP is sitting at 27, and the Liberals at 9, and the Greens at 1. Doug Ford's lead in Etobicoke North is growing over the Liberal candidate, and you know, he's been declared elected there as well. So we've and again, we're showing, you know, Mike Schreiner elected, and Sylvia elected, and Ted Arnott elected, and hopefully we will have the results of some of the other ridings up on the screen in the near future, and we'll be able to have a look at those as well. So we have some more guests that. Okay, so we have Ryan Cairo from the Green Party in Wellington, Halton Hills on the on the call. Ryan, are you there?
Yes, hi.
Hey, Ryan, it's great to talk to you again, and really appreciate you joining us this evening from, you know, beautiful Wellington, Halton Hills. And you have a really interesting bio. We're really cool about your deep roots in agriculture, and we understand you went to school with Laura Campbell, and that you grew up on a family farm, and you know, you've got a husband and 3 kids on your own farm in Rockwood, so you know, that's terrific. So can you share with us what your experience has been like? My understanding is this the first election that you've run in?
Yep. It has been a wonderful experience. It's been very positive. There's been lots of momentum in this riding and lots of support for green, creating a lot of green awareness and a lot of green interest, and just a lot of support for new ideas and change across the riding. So it's been really exciting and really, really positive. And, you know, I'm just so thankful for everybody that ran and is running. And it's a hard thing to throw your hat in, but absolutely worth it, and it's been a really great ride.
And the experiences that you had at the door, how did you find those?
Mostly positive. I mean, a lot of people interested in Green Party, a lot of people open to new information and considering new ideas, and a lot of people maybe worried about some of the issues that we've had going on the last couple of years. But a lot of interest, a lot of people wanting to know more and make a really informed decision, which is great.
Very cool. That's terrific. So we're hearing from other candidates that they've had positive experiences at the door. That seems to be a very great change from the federal election last September, where there seemed to be a lot more friction going on between candidates and people at the door. So we're really liking what we're hearing about the positive responses that you and other candidates have been getting.
Yeah, absolutely. It's it built a lot of momentum, and it built a lot of connection with the community and awareness, education, and it was great. I mean, after down is up, so there was some hard times through the federal election, but I thought right away that's going to be a positive time for the provincial opportunity.
Cool. And if my memory is correct, you were nominated around the beginning of the year, so you had about 3 to 4 months in advance of the writ being issued to get yourself organized and start campaigning, and be able to recruit volunteers to help you, correct?
Yes. We had a good amount of time to plan out our goals and put our team together and see what everyone could pull together and where we wanted to get to by June 2nd. And we definitely exceeded everything we went out to do. So we're really proud of this group. It's accomplished a lot.
Okay, thanks, Ryan. Really appreciate being able to speak with you tonight, and all the best going forward, okay?
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Have a great one. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Okay, so now it's time to talk about some of the issues that we've seen during the campaign. So, Cheryl, do you have an issue that you'd like to talk about, or would you like a couple of suggestions?
Well, no. I think what the question is, what didn't appeal to voters in the NDP and Liberal platforms? Mm-hmm. I mean, in all my years of watching politics, which is a couple by now, I've not seen platforms that are so similar between the Liberal platform, the NDP, and the Green. Very, very similar, small differences on some issues. But it didn't appeal to voters, and why is that? What was in the messaging that didn't break through to voters?
I think for me, one of the challenges with those two parties, they had basically a full menu of things that they were going to try and tackle. Whereas if you looked at the PC, they focused on, I think, 3 or 4 priorities. They talked about infrastructure, and they were very specific. Whereas the other parties, they had a laundry list of items that they were trying to focus on. So I think that kind of distracted from their overall message, and it kind of turned voters off to some extent. So I think that was one of the biggest challenges. Do you think the fact that to Cheryl's point, those 3 progressive parties had platforms that were almost mirror images of each, do you think that didn't allow one of the parties to kind of break free and to resonate with voters, that they got kind of confused? That is a good point. Yeah, they were very similar, and it's hard to differentiate between the two. I think each of them were tackling the same topics, but the difference for me when I looked at the platforms, the PC again, they had 3 specific things that they were trying to focus on. So I think that's where the difference was for me. Okay, cool. Cheryl? Yeah, I mean, we can see the PCs are 81, so this is really a landslide for the PCs. And I've seen Stephen has been defeated. He's been that riding has been declared, and quite resoundingly. So he did not appeal to voters, personally. With the platform was complex. I mean, certainly talking to many voters, they really vote based on the leader. And I don't know that in this case it was, in 2018 we saw a massive vote against Kathleen Wynne. I'm not sure this was as much people felt the Ford government did a good job during the pandemic,
and the other leaders just weren't able to, come through with simple messaging, some key issues that really grabbed voters' attention. Over and over, I would have people say, I just don't like Del Duca, I don't like Andrea, and really, it wasn't an election clearly about issues as much as many of us would have thought. So I don't know that people were thinking, I'm voting in favor of highways and not in favor of
the person.
I just don't think people thought we're having those conversations about the issues during this election. I mean, it's certainly one of the questions I want to ask. And you see the Liberals have pulled ahead of the Green in Dufferin Caledon. So it'll be interesting to see what the candidates say. The conversations at the door were like. Yeah,
we're just at the halfway mark of the voting results. We only, 31 out of 61 polls, so still a long way to go to determine who's going to end up, in second, third, and fourth place, because those numbers can change.
Mike has done really well in a resounding victory.
Yeah, Mike Schreiner has cleaned up incredibly big time.
And I do think Mike was a surprise during the debate for a lot of people, because this was the first time he was able to be at the debate. And I, like Mike, trended on Twitter after the debate, and I think people saw what lots of us have known for a very long time, that Mike Schreiner is a great guy and cares passionately about the environment. I'd known him for years before he was an MPP, and he would show up for all of our environmental rallies and, stood outside in the legislature every time it was going on, and he would give his little reports from outside, and you really show the, that one person in a party can still make a big difference, and his voice and pushing on the climate issues is important.
I think the key word you hit on was passion, passionate passion. Mike exuded that in spades, and it came through loud and clear during the debate. And I don't think we saw that kind of passion coming out of Del Duca or Horvath. They just seemed to kind of fall flat. And Mike was able to stand out as a result. And, if you look at the brilliant leaders we've had in the past, whether it's in Canada or the US, it's the leaders that have passion, that are able to communicate that.
Right.
And
they're able to connect with the audience better, right? Yeah. And when you're connected with people, then people will buy your message, people will buy your platform more and buy into your vision.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, right now we've got Justin Trudeau. His dad was a very passionate leader. Brian Mulroney was also quite passionate. Barack Obama, very passionate. Bill Clinton, very passionate. And to your point, they connect.
Yeah.
And we just didn't see that with the NDP and the Liberal leaders this time, did we?
I did not. And, one of the things that I liked too about Mike was he seems like an approachable guy that is on the ground, with his campaign team and rallying the troops along. And I didn't get that sense from the other party leaders, that same approachable feel that, I can approach this person and have a conversation and be comfortable with him. So I think that's another thing that stood out for me with Mike.
Yeah, and Mike made multiple trips to Dufferin Caledon.
Yes, he did.
We have someone else on the...
Yes.
Awesome.
Okay, so we have another guest on the line. We have the NDP candidate for Dufferin Caledon, Tess Prendergast. Tess, are you there?
I am. Hi, how is everybody tonight?
Hey, we're just terrific. I'm Bruce Walkinshaw, and you've met Cheryl and Alethea O'Hara Stevenson. So we've been actually quite excited, following your campaign this time. You're a teacher, you're a mom, you're a community advocate, and you've been a leader with Scouts Canada, so and very environmentally strong. So Cheryl.
Well, Tess, I think I'll start off by saying, how much so many of us were impressed with you when we met you and saw your passion and enthusiasm out on the campaign
we've lost
trail.
her.
Oh, Tess, are you still there? Oh,
Okay.
we've lost
Yeah, it looks
Tess.
like we've lost Tess momentarily. We will get her back, and we'll be able to have a conversation with her.
Well, I'll talk about her while she's gone.
Okay, perfect.
No,
Thank you.
You know, I met her at a Stop the 413 rally, and she was there with her sign and her kids and her husband, and you know, really passionately believing in the causes. You find, you know, often in elections, you know, every time there's an event, everybody running just shows up for the event because they feel like, oh, there's going to be a lot of people there, and I need to get votes. And Tess was authentic, and you knew that these were issues that she really cared about, and that was great to see, and to see more young women seeking out a position in politics. Just, I mean, it's great to see. It's great to see.
It's definitely inspiring, and just even how she ran her campaign again. You know, for a first-time candidate, she was bold, she was confident, and she was authentic.
Okay, so Tess, we have you back again.
Yes, sorry, I think I got disconnected there.
That's okay. Cheryl was just starting to ask you a question.
Yeah, and I was talking about you while you were gone, Tess, but
That's good.
only good things. So I was just saying, you know, how many of us were impressed with you, your knowledge, your enthusiasm, your authenticity, and caring about the community and issues, and you know, as a woman who, you know, when I was younger, didn't see a lot of women in politics. It's just great to see women standing up and not being afraid to be out there. My question for you is, what did you learn at the door? Did anything surprise you when you were talking to residents in the community?
Yeah, that's a great question, Cheryl. Something that surprised me when speaking to people is that, you know, people seemed thirsty for change, but they didn't really know how to identify what kind of change they're looking for. They're not really happy with what's happening right now, but they don't really identify with any new progressive ideas that are being presented to them. And not to say that any party is not giving that, but maybe just the everyday person is not feeling that they're resonating with any party right now. So that's something that definitely the progressive parties can work towards. But at the door, there was a general sentiment of just malcontent. You know, and I feel like the residents of Dufferin Caledon do want change, but they just don't know what kind of change they want yet.
Oh, that's a really great observation. Were there any issues that came up consistently for you that people were concerned about at the door?
Definitely. Healthcare was at the top of everyone's mind. Affordability, the concern of privatization of healthcare under a conservative government was huge. Affordability of long-term care and care of our elders, affordability of housing for those in their 20s. I know that definitely came up a lot of times. And of course, the Highway 413 was at the top of everyone's mind at the door.
And did you find people were for or against the 413 test?
You know, to be honest, I was hard-pressed to find anyone who actually wanted the highway. No one that I spoke to in all of Dufferin Caledon was in favor of it. Everyone was against the highway and failed to see the merit in the project, to be honest.
So we look at these results now, and right now the PCs are showing 80 seats, and NDP 28, Liberals 9, Green 1. What do you think's happening in Ontario? Do you think people are hyper-focused on the leader and which leader they like the best?
Yeah, maybe. I honestly, I'm looking at the results and I'm asking that myself. Maybe it's COVID related and people aren't ready to shake it up yet and they're going to stay with the status quo because it feels safe. Maybe people just weren't swayed by the provincial leadership. And I did read somewhere in a political science textbook that the first consideration is the provincial leader, you know, and third is the person that's running in the riding. Second is the platform. So I think perhaps that might be an indication of where things are, and people just really identified with the provincial leader.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Hi, Tess. It's Alethea. Great chatting with you again. Hey. What is the biggest lesson you learned for yourself in running for this campaign selection?
Oh, that's a good question. I learned that sometimes it's okay to sacrifice your own personal comfort for something that is bigger than yourself. So when you're fighting for people that are vulnerable and you're seeking to amplify the voices of others that are often not heard, like children or seniors or those in marginalized communities, it's okay to sacrifice your own personal comfort and vulnerability for the greater good.
Awesome, I love that. And I have to say, I'm inspired by, your courage to run, and thank you for all the great work that you did on this campaign.
So we're actually really hoping that you're super inspired. and that's a loaded comment.
Well, Tess, we're hoping that we'll see you again in the future. Do you have any plans to run again anytime soon?
Yeah, I've been thinking about running municipally, and I'm a teacher in Orangeville, so I'm busy with full-time teaching and a mother to a 4- and 6-year-old. But it's something that I have bandied about in my head, and I'm definitely seeking to be the provincial NDP candidate for years to come. So I'll be here, and you'll be seeing my name.
Wow, that's awesome.
That's
great really exciting.
Great, thanks everybody for your support.
Yeah, and so Tess, thank you very much. We're delighted that you were able to make some time to speak with us, and all the best going forward, okay?
Great, thank you so much, everybody.
Okay, thanks, Tess. Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, so now we want to talk about the results in Vaughan Woodbridge, where Michael Tabolo, the incumbent, has been declared elected, and he has a large lead over the Liberal leader, Stephen Del Duca. Stephen had lost his riding in 2018 by about 8,000 votes, and he's roughly 3,000, a little over 3,000 votes behind. So he has made up some ground, but obviously, based on what we're seeing, nowhere near enough. And that's going to put, not just Stephen, but the Provincial Liberal Party in a really interesting predicament or situation in terms of, what do they do, going forward. And, Stephen, over the last few days, has said several times that he has no intention of stepping down as leader. What do you guys think, where we're at now? Cheryl?
Well, we've talked about this. I see no path forward for him to remain as leader when he's not in the legislature. And looking at the results here, I know that's going to be a huge disappointment for the Liberals, who were hoping to at least end up with 20 seats. And I know we've still got some ridings unreported, but it's not looking good for the Liberals at all tonight, and he is going to have to take ownership of that. Yeah. So
that's a tough position to be in. But to Cheryl's point, what is the sense in remaining the leader when he doesn't have a seat? So, it's tough.
Yeah. In Stephen's defense, he became the leader for a party that was massively in debt, and Stephen has some very great skills. One of them is his ability to raise money and his ability to organize. And then what's come out during this election was his ability to recruit really top caliber candidates. And, the party was able to wipe out their debt, I think around the middle of last year. And then, so going forward, whatever money they raised was, going to go towards this election. And when you look at the caliber of candidates that he was able to recruit, it was just excellent. The diversity and the number of female candidates, which he was incredibly proud to keep telling everybody that at least half of his candidates were female, which is terrific. And both the NDP and the Green parties, they also had roughly half their candidates female. The only party that lagged behind in terms of female candidates was the PC party, and they had about half the female candidates that the three so-called progressive parties did. So
I think they also lagged in terms of diversity, the PC party, diversity in their candidates right across the province.
Yes, you're right. And so I know you were doing a little bit of deep diving into the number of candidates, black candidates and other candidates of color. So can we get you to share a little bit about that information?
So I was interested to see Brampton South. We have two really strong black candidates in that riding. We have Marilyn Raphael for the Liberal Party and Andrea Barrett for the NDP. My challenge is, though they're both amazing, well-rounded, talented women, the challenge is I think the vote is going to be split between the two candidates, and as a result, I think the vote is going to go back to the incumbent. So that's a challenge that I think that riding specifically will face in this election.
Okay, interesting. Thanks, Alethea. So on the line we have the Green candidate for Dufferin Caledon, Laura Campbell. Laura, can you hear me?
I can. Hi.
Awesome. Hey, Laura, thank you very much for being on the show with us. You've met Cheryl, and I'm going to turn it over to her.
Hi, Laura. Great for you to call in. So I think not the results that you might have been looking to see tonight, but how do you feel personally?
Yeah, hi, Cheryl. Yeah, I mean, I think we still feel really great about everything because we've worked so hard and we've reached so many people. Our campaign was really big this time. We knocked on more doors than we ever have, and you could really feel the energy in our campaign. And the folks that did vote for us did so because they believed in that vote that they cast. They believed in voting for Green. They believed in the platform and our message and everything we had to offer to this riding and to the people of Ontario. So I just want to say a huge thanks to everybody who voted with their heart and voted for something that they wanted and not against something that they didn't want. And so, but we do see the numbers reflect the absolute fear of another Ford majority. And I just want to say to the people of Dufferin Caledon and everybody, Greens and Green supporters and all of us out there, we're not going anywhere. We are going to expect that all of the concerns that have been brought forward during this election are addressed. We're going to continue to fight for affordable homes. We're going to continue to fight to protect the environment. We're going to continue to make sure that our nurses are getting paid fairly and that our healthcare system can get back on its feet after Ford cuts have decimated it. And so I just want to say we're not going anywhere. We're a very well-organized machine. And yeah, we're going to keep giving people something to vote for and to just hope for a better future and this fantastic platform that the Ontario Greens have shared with the people of Ontario.
That's great. Laura, when you were knocking on doors, what were the issues that people most often were concerned about?
Yeah, I mean, housing affordability and just affordability in general are two massive issues. But obviously, the environment has continued to remain top of mind for so many. When we think about the 413 having taken up a lot of airtime during this election, so many talking about it, you can see that a lot of people are not convinced that building more sprawl infrastructure is going to be the answer for Ontario. So, I just want to say we're going to continue to, oppose this highway, but also the Bradford bypass and other destructive projects, not only in this riding, but across the province. Because if we continue to neglect our environment, everybody's in trouble. And, that's the major issue, I think.
That's great, Laura. I know, we've talked about it. My son is 21 and, he and his friends don't feel they have a future, that us old people have destroyed the planet too much. Yeah. So having people like you willing to fight for his future and his friends and all of the kids. Thank you for doing that. I think that's really important.
Yeah, Cheryl, it's pretty concerning. We saw obviously the massive storm that ripped through in Ontario, and it doesn't matter who you are. You can be the richest person in the world. Climate change and environmental destruction will affect you. But I also want to, say that it is the most marginalized in our communities that will get hit the hardest by, the high cost of fuel, because we continue to be addicted to oil and not transitioning to an economy based on renewables. And so this is an intersectional issue. And this is why I'm an activist, but also why I believe that we need to be electing Greens across the province. Also to make sure that our politics are more collaborative and more collegial, and that we're all working together for the people of Ontario and not just for our hyper-partisan interests.
Okay. I think Alethea wants to ask you something now, Laura, so
Sure.
I'll turn it over
Hi,
to
Alethea.
Alethea.
Hey, Laura, how are you? So good that you called in.
I'm good. How are you? Thanks.
So one of the things that we've been hearing on the various platforms with women running are some of the challenges that they faced, in particular in the GTA core. Did you experience any of those challenges while running in Dufferin Caledon?
Yeah, I did. As a woman, I've, sadly experienced a great deal of misogyny in my life. I didn't feel a lot of support from the other, I didn't feel that I was supported as a woman by the other progressive candidate here. One of the other progressive candidates. I think we need to support one another. And I think, it's just so rare to see. I was so proud to stand with Tess and to say, we need to make sure that we are electing women. And I think there's always going to be challenges. That being said, I speak for everyone, and, the entire community of LGBTQ plus IA folks. So it's not just about being a woman. It's about having any sort of diverse gender expression. We need to support one another completely and not just use that as a slogan, but to really stand by it.
I love that, and thank you for bringing that up. And my last question to you would be, what advice would you give to yourself or any other candidate who would want to seek a position?
What advice would I have for them? Is that the question?
Yeah.
Sorry, I just didn't hear you. Yeah, just have fun, and just remember to believe in yourself, and to know that there are people out there who want to support you, and that even if you don't win or you don't have the outcome that you want, you're not doing this for yourself. You're doing it for those folks who don't have a voice, who don't have the agency or the support to stand up and run, because it is really, really hard to run for office, and it takes a lot of time and commitment. And I just want to shout out to my family and to my coworkers at my little restaurant who have given me so much time to go and do this, and I love them so much. And my campaign manager and my mom and dad, and I just want to say, you can't do it alone, but if you do it, it'll be the best thing you've ever done. And it's just, you're giving a voice, exactly as Tess said, you're giving a voice to the voiceless, and just go for it. Go for it.
I love that. Thank you so much, and kudos to you for putting your name in the hat and having the courage to lead. That's exactly what you've done. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks to all of you, and you're doing a great job tonight.
You're
I'll talk
welcome,
to you
and all the
soon.
best going forward, Laura. It's been a delight having you on the campaign trail.
And Laura, are we going to see you in 4 years? Do you have any other political ambitions? We asked Tess the same question.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. 4 years is a long way away. All I will say is that I'm not going anywhere, and I said this in 2018. I'm literally fighting for all of our children's future. I'm fighting for their entire future,
I'm so proud of Mike Schreiner. He's the effective opposition. We cannot keep kicking the ball down the road. Food insecurity, climate change, refugees, oil prices, this is all going to stay with us. It's not going away. We can't continue to ignore it. So, yeah, I'm still going to be here. I don't know in what capacity, but I'm not going anywhere.
Awesome.
So thank you all so much.
That's great to hear, Laura. We love having you in our community fighting for us. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Cheryl.
And all the best going forward. Thanks, Laura.
Thanks so
Have a
much.
great evening.
Thanks. Yeah, you too. Bye.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
All right, so we've got roughly 4 to 5 ridings that there are no results for yet. And, you know, we're going to have, as we've very well seen, a huge PC majority. They've elected even more members this time around than they did in 2018. And the NDP have lost a significant number of seats, even though the Liberals are not doing nearly as well as they had hoped. They're still up over what they ended up with in 2018 by about 2 seats.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
Bruce, they've missed out on the all-important 12 to make official party status.
At the
So
moment,
they are
yes.
still not going to have official party status. That's
Yeah.
got to be a crushing disappointment to
Yes.
to the Liberal Party
Yeah.
and to Stephen.
Yeah, they've invested so much time, money, effort into you know, having a very positive, active campaign. And to your point, it's really got to be hugely disappointing that it hasn't translated. And I think it goes back to the discussion we were having earlier about the platforms for the 3 parties being so similar. And you know, none of them resonating against the extremely simple, effective campaign that the PCs ran.
Yeah.
And then, of course, it doesn't hurt that they could outspend the other parties, probably combined. You know, that doesn't. You know, that has to help. You know, when you've got the kind of money that they had available, and as we're well aware, you know, they were running, you know, ads going back into last fall, and again, a lot of them recently, and especially if you were watching major sporting events, there were a lot of PC ads. Get it done.
Right. But I think this is an opportunity, though, you know, as disappointing as it is, it's an opportunity for them to regroup, rebuild, and figure out a strategy, you know, for the next 4 years. Right? There's a
Yeah.
lot of work that still needs to be done.
Yeah.
I think we just have to say, I mean, the past 4 years have not been normal. And Stephen was elected really on the cusp of COVID. I mean, I think right after that leadership election, the world shut down. And his certainly first year was in that awkward position of, you know, everyone trying to be collaborative and work together while we dealt with an unprecedented, you know, global health crisis. And that, I think that really put him behind the 8 ball to be able to, you know, make a name for himself and really get known.
momentum.
And, you know, and you know, people might, you know, just didn't see a lot of interest in following the issues in this election. You know, we had the federal election last year, which was a very volatile election, you know, mandates and lots of, you know, trauma coming out of the pandemic, and people just didn't seem to, you know, get interested in this one.
Yeah, I don't know if it's voter burnout or just giving it up, but I don't know what the challenge was this election. And, you know, I think he definitely had a challenge coming out.
So we have another candidate on the line. We have Diane Valentine, who is the NDP candidate for Wellington, Halton Hills. Diane, can you hear me?
I can. Hi.
Hey, Diane, thank you for being on a call with us. We appreciate that. I've looked at your bio. You've got a terrific background. With respect to, you know, how you grew up and the challenges that, you know, you've overcome to become an educator and a community leader. You're a teacher. You're running a small business and looking after family. it's really commendable. And then in 2018, you got elected as a counselor in your community. So, you know, congrats and good on you. And so, you know, talk to us about how your experience was as you campaigned and went door to door in this election, please.
Yeah, we ran a very, very small campaign back in 2018 and learned a great deal from that experience. And this time we had record-breaking lawn sign orders, and we had more than 60 volunteers, and we raised more money than has ever been raised historically. And the messages that we heard at the door were about affordable housing, they were about protecting health care, they were about supporting our schools, and about affordability. And, you know, when I would tell them that, you know, I ran in 2018, receiving 25% of the vote, and that I had become a Wellington County Councillor and had experience with policymaking and a commitment to the community, people were really interested, and there was an awful lot of support for this campaign. People are very concerned about the cracks in society that were revealed during the pandemic, and that was the messaging that we heard over and over again.
So that's cool. It's very heartening to hear about the number of volunteers that you had and the money that you were able to raise. Unless I miss my guess, you ended up in the two ridings that we're looking after tonight with one of the largest contingent of volunteers at more than 60. So that obviously speaks to your, you know, how inspirational and motivation and what kind of a leader you are. So, you know, huge congrats for that.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, you know, I've been a teacher in the community for more than 25 years, and, you know, you build a reputation, but I've also taken on numerous projects like a community dinner and a municipal campaign school and various other projects throughout those years. And so you build up a reputation, and you figure that this is the next opportunity to level up the kind of policy making that you would like to provide for Ontarians.
Cool. That's excellent. And can you share with us a little bit about your experience at the door? How were you received?
Oh, very positively, actually. Yeah, people were like, the communities. It's a very large and disparate riding, right? It's this giant donut around what we refer to as the Timbit of Guelph, and so we border Waterloo and Flamborough-Glanbrook and Brampton and Perth, Wellington. It's a very, very large riding, and so it's difficult to find common issues because there are at least 3 or 4 different sort of small urban centers, 2 different counties, 2 different school boards. But the kinds of things that people were concerned about, you know, in the Georgetown and Acton Halton Hills part of the riding, people were very concerned about the 413. And in the Wellington part of the riding, people were very concerned about urban sprawl and the chopping up of our really good agricultural land. So those were sort of big overarching issues.
Okay, and were you seeing an appetite for a change? You know, Ted's been reelected tonight, and by our count, this is his either 8th or 9th term. And did you sense that there was some kind of an appetite for a change election in your riding?
It certainly seemed that way. Yes, that was definitely the kind of messaging that we heard at the doors. You know, people that had moved into the communities over the course of the last 3 or 4 years. Like, there was a lot of urban flights during the pandemic into Georgetown and Fergus and Elora. And a lot of doors we knocked on, they had no idea who Ted was because they were new to the community. There was none of this assumption that they were going to vote Conservative because they had never voted Conservative before and they weren't aware. So they were very interested in meeting an NDP candidate who had come in second last time. So it really felt by the conversations that we had, and we had many more signs on lawns than Ted had. So yeah, it really did seem like people were ready for a change, but I'm not sure what the voter turnout actually is. So that's something to look at afterward.
Yeah, we'll have to check that out. The prognosis was, or the guess was, that the turnout was going to be lower this time than it was in 2018, which was 57%, which, you know, obviously is not a good turnout in,
No.
you know, across the board. And, you know, the guess was that it would be even lower this time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's really unfortunate. You know, we can't really have representation that reflects what we, you know, need or aspire to when the majority, I mean, a big majority, not 57% of people show up to vote. So that's really problematic. And it really reinforces the status quo. And it's younger people that, you know, under 35, those sort of younger millennials and the Gen Z kids who really are being affected by policies, but are often the least likely to vote. And I really did feel that we ran a campaign that inspired younger voters. But ultimately, if they're not coming out to vote, there really isn't much that we can do.
It's got to be really frustrating when you've got a message that resonates and and people, you know, just won't get off their you-know-whats and exercise their democratic right to vote. You know, you are coming in second in your riding, which I think is a testament to, you know, to the campaign that you've run. And one of the observations that I had was that all of your campaign material and your website, etc., was extremely professionally well done. And I think that reflects very highly on the quality of person and candidate that you are.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that. We had a really, really dynamic and talented team that stepped up, and our social media person was truly astounding in the kind of, you know, graphics that she was able to create, and she was so rapid in her ability to put together any clips. And our campaign manager was someone who was always coming up with new ideas about how to make sure that we were connecting with a variety of different voters and making sure that there was lots of material available for people. So we ran a really great campaign. And I mean, that's all you can do, right? Is to make sure that you run the best campaign that you can. You leave it all on the field, to use a sports analogy, and have no regrets about it. And then you just have to leave it up to democracy to see what happens.
Cool. No, that's terrific, and we all commend you for, you know, running a really terrific campaign. And what are you doing going forward? Are we going to see you running again municipally in the fall?
Yes, I'll be running for county council in the fall. I already hold a county council seat, so yes, that is something that I will do in the fall. As much as I enjoy that, I had hoped that I would be serving at Queen's Park, but that's not going to happen right now. So then, yes, I will be continuing the really important work that we're doing at the municipal level, and we know that that's the level of government that's closest to people's lives and makes the most difference in a sort of visible sort of way. So I'm looking forward to running in that campaign and hopefully being able to continue that work.
Hey, that's excellent, and I'm sure that the people in your ward are excited to hear that you're going to be running for re-election. From everything we've seen, you've done an excellent job as a councillor, and also you've run an excellent campaign as the NDP candidate. So
that's great.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yes, I think that we did run a fine campaign, and we will debrief and learn from this and move on from that.
Excellent. So thank you very much. All the best going forward, and we really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us tonight, okay?
Thanks so much, Bruce. I appreciate you reaching out. Take good care.
Thanks. Take care. Okay, bye-bye. So viewers, we've got a really terrific interview coming up. We've got the leader of the Green Party, Mike Schreiner, coming on with us in somewhere between 2 to 3 minutes, and that's thanks to Cheryl Connors here for making that happen. Cheryl has a long-standing personal relationship with Mike. They've been good friends for a long time, and she was able to prevail on him. So we will have that interview with Cheryl coming up in just a few minutes. Okay, so hey, Mike, how you doing? Okay, Mike, it's Bruce Walkinshaw. How are you tonight?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Fabulous. I'm going to turn it over to Cheryl. She's excited to have the opportunity to speak with you on a historic election night.
Great.
Hi, Mike. Thanks so much for calling in. I know how busy you are, and really great that you took the time. Laura did fantastic in the writing. So what do you have to say to those of us who might be a little disappointed with what happened today?
Well, I would just say that, the Greens are here to stay. Like, we've proven that with my re-election here in Guelph. And, we're seeing an uptick in Green support all across the province. And I'm excited about Laura Campbell's result in Dufferin Caledon, which I think really puts her in a very strong position to win in the next election. And we know that we have to go through a process as, the fourth party in the legislature. We know we have to go through a process to build, and Laura is building that winning effort in Dufferin Caledon, and I'm just really proud of how well she did in this campaign.
Yeah, we're proud of her as well. I think she got a great team. I mean, she spoke to us just a little earlier and talked about, the concerns that people have at the door, and what she said is, and so did the NDP candidate. They didn't find anyone when they knocked on the doors that was in favor of the 413. So I think we're still going to have a good battle here to try to stop it from destroying our community.
Oh, absolutely. One of the things that I've learned over the last 4 years is that we can mobilize communities and citizens to push back against destructive projects like Highway 413. And so I would say even with a Conservative majority government, it is not a done deal. And, I'm going to be the voice of those folks in the legislature. I'm going to do everything I can to help people mobilize on the ground and amplify their voice at Queen's Park, because we simply can't afford to pave over the farmland that feeds us, the wetlands that protect us, and the places that we love in this province.
Yeah, I completely agree, Mike. We saw that, the storm a couple of weeks ago and the connection to the climate crisis, that this is not the time to be paving over wetlands and farmland.
Exactly. And so, I'm hoping that, the storms, we've got flooding in northwestern Ontario right now. Obviously, this horrific storm that hit southern Ontario, especially, Uxbridge and the Ottawa region, and the extreme heat we've had the last few days of the month of May, all points to the fact that we are in a climate emergency, and we have to protect the nature that protects us. We have to make the investments to make sure our communities and our infrastructure are, able to withstand climate disruption. And we also have to make sure that we do our part in reducing climate pollution and just really setting our economy up to be successful in the new climate economy.
Well, that's great. I said we were chatting with one of your past Green candidates earlier today about how happy we were that you were able to be in the debate, and how immediately afterwards, like Mike was trending on Twitter and people were just starting to get to know you. So I see great things in your future as people are finally getting to know the Mike Schreiner that so many of us have known for so many years and loved and admired. So congratulations on your great showing in Guelph as well tonight. That was an overwhelming victory for you.
Thanks, Mike. We really
I appreciate that, and
taking
just,
time
my
out
gratitude
of
to
your
the people of
busy
Guelph,
schedule
and
tonight
I just want the rest of Ontario to get to know me as well as people in Guelph have, and I think you're right. The leaders' debate was the first opportunity to do that, and we saw a huge uptick in momentum for the Ontario Greens coming out of that, and we're just going to continue to build on it.
That's great. Well,
Excellent.
thanks for taking
Yeah.
the time. I know how busy you are tonight, and everyone in Dufferin Caledon, all your Green supporters here, really appreciate you.
Mm-hmm.
The many times you came to our riding, not just in the election, but for at least 15 years you've been here, helping us out, and we appreciate it. So I hope you go and enjoy your celebration party in Guelph tonight.
Well, thank you, and you have a great evening.
Thanks,
Okay,
Mike. We
thanks.
appreciate it.
Okay, bye for now.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Sylvia's here. Okay, we're going to take a quick break for a minute or so. Thank you.
Sylvia.
Yeah.
Break, then Sylvia.
Mm-hmm.
Say it.
Oh, so we have a quick break coming up, and then we have our re-elected MPP, Sylvia Jones, who has graciously come into the studio, and we'll have an opportunity to interview her. Thanks. We're back again, and we're very fortunate to have the MPP-elect Sylvia Jones in person with us tonight. So Sylvia, welcome to Rogers Cable TV Provincial Election Night Special. Yeah. And from the three of us, congratulations. This will be, if my memory is correct, your 5th term.
It is.
So you're getting close to setting some records. Your seatmate in the riding next door, Ted, I believe he's coming into his 9th term.
Yeah, I'd have to do the math on Ted, but he's definitely someone that we all look up to, and he's been a great colleague over the years, and of course, most recently for the last 4, the Speaker of the House.
Yeah. Exactly, and that's a really tough job to do. You know, when you're trying to referee with, you know, all the individual members, let alone the parties, because all of you have, you know, strong personalities, and you've got, you know, things that you want to accomplish.
Well, I've always said that I could never be the Speaker of the Legislature because I could not remember the 124 writing names, because we can't call each other by our names. It has to be by the writing name.
The honourable member from.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Ted's Wellington, Halton Hills, but don't test me.
And that's only because he's the riding next door to you, right?
Exactly.
I hear you. So how did you find the reception at the door this time around compared to the 2018 election? Because as we all know, that was a massive change election.
It was.
Yeah.
It was. So I had a colleague once tell me that the second time you are elected in government is almost better than the first time, because it is an endorsement of what you've been doing in government. And I've been thinking about that, and it does, because we all know that in 2018 there was a definite change was in the works. People wanted a change from the current government of the day, the Liberals, and to have, after 4 years, an endorsement of Premier Ford and what we have been doing in government is really exciting. Of course, elections are all sort of a job review, if you would. So thank you to the people of Dufferin Caledon for once again putting their faith in me to serve them at Queen's Park.
You know, directly stated, it was another resounding victory for you and the PC party in this riding. And how did you find the reception that you were getting this time versus, you know, previously? You know, were you encountering, shall we say, headwinds, or was it mainly positive as you were going around canvassing?
So I haven't looked at the final numbers, but they look pretty close to what they were in 2018. Certainly with the added responsibility, serving in cabinet, serving with Premier Ford, the name recognition was definitely there. People knew what I had been doing for the last 4 years, and that always helps, of course. So what I got more than I've received in other elections is people's concern that their sons and daughters are not going to be able to find a home in the community that they grew up in. That people were telling me their elderly parents who don't want to cut the grass anymore and don't want to be clearing the driveways in the winter, they didn't have options for their downsizing to happen in Dufferin Caledon. And frankly, I think that is really sad, because when people have friends, faith, and want to be in the community that they've grown up in or that they've worked in for 20, 30, 40 years, I want them to be able to continue living here. And so being in a government that wants to plan for the future, that wants to prepare for an aging population with additional long-term care homes, 13 new beds at Headwaters Healthcare Centre. I can't remember the last time that we had new beds added to Headwaters. Those types of things, planning for what we see coming down, really speaks to, I think it resonated with people.
Cool. No, that's excellent. So do we have time for one more question?
Sure. Yeah, I'll jump right in.
Okay.
So you've been a huge supporter of equity issues right across Dufferin Caledon and done some amazing work. How do you plan to keep the momentum going forward in this new term?
It's a great question. What you see is what you get. I have served this riding proudly, representing it for the last 4 terms, and what I've been doing is what I intend to continue to do. I love representing and bringing the views of Dufferin Caledon to Queen's Park, and I will continue to do that. And as Dufferin Caledon changes, as it evolves, as new people move into the community, we're seeing that in Shelburne, in Grand Valley, in Southern Caledon, I will continue to reach out and listen and learn. And I often go to schools and talk to young people, and they say, what do you have to do? What is it, how, if I want to get into politics, if I want to serve, what does that, how do I prepare for that? And I said, love to read, and love to talk to people and listen from those conversations. So.
Very cool.
That's amazing.
Very cool.
I have a quick one.
Yes, please.
Sorry, Sylvia, you know I represent a respiratory organization, and our respiratory professionals have been through hell for 2.5 years, and they're tired, overworked, their mental health every single day I talk to them. I'm just going to ask that you keep that in mind moving forward, that how tough it's been on our health professionals and how amazing they've been.
There is no doubt that our healthcare professionals writ large, from personal support workers all the way up to highly specialized surgeons, have been challenged in the last 2 years in particular. It frankly talks about why we need to do better planning, why we need to understand when we say that a population is going to be increasing in a part of the province, that we make sure that there's infrastructure there. And that infrastructure can be healthcare infrastructure, it can be education infrastructure, it can be infrastructure in terms of, do we have sufficient hospital beds? Unfortunately, we found very quickly during COVID that we did not have enough, and it strained everyone. But I think that you will see going forward with the initiatives that we've brought forward already, and we will complete that job, that there is good news to come for Dufferin Caledon.
That's great.
Cool. No, that's exciting. And again, congratulations. 5th term is pretty neat and pretty special. So, you know, you've got a huge amount of work and responsibilities ahead of you. So, you know, all the best going forward. And we really appreciate that you took some time out of election night to come and be with us in person for a few minutes. So, Sylvia, thank you very much.
I'm
and again,
sure,
Just have to go back and
congratulations.
thank all my volunteers.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm sure there's a party waiting for you.
Yes. I'm not sure there's a party, but there's lots of thank yous.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
Awesome.
All right, thank you
Awesome.
very
Thank
much.
you.
We really
Thank you and
appreciate it.
congratulations.
Stay
Thanks,
well.
Sylvia.
Thank you.
Okay.
Your mics are still hot. Talk about the board.
Okay. Can you call? And there's one other candidate that we're not quite sure who that is, but that's kind of interesting. And I think there's still 3 or 4 ridings that haven't reported in yet, and that's probably because there was an extension of the voting time in some of the ridings because of some of the difficulties that were encountered earlier in the day, so they just extended the voting hours.
Yes, that's right, Bruce.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at Peel Region, and Mississauga Erin Mills hasn't reported yet, and
Okay.
every other riding in Peel has gone conservative.
So that means that some of the NDP members, Sarah Singh, for example, have gone down to defeat.
Yeah, Brampton Centre and Brampton East,
Yeah.
and Brampton North all went conservative.
So really
yeah.
interesting, you know, provincially all blue, federally all red for the Liberals.
Yeah.
So, you know, it kind of speaks to, you know, what we've observed for decades now, that, you know, voters tend to vote Liberal federally, and they want to have a counterpart, different party in power in, you know, in Ontario provincially, and typically that's, you know, the Progressive Conservatives. So that has pretty much stayed true tonight.
Yeah, York is all conservative, but it's remained conservative.
Yeah.
Toronto, the Liberals picked up Beaches East York with Mary Margaret McMahon, who was a very, very popular Toronto councillor.
Don Valley East, Don Valley West.
Yeah, Don Valley West with Kathleen Wynn's riding, that
Yeah.
remains
and
Liberal.
Stephanie Bowman. So, yeah, that's a hold.
And we're still waiting on results in Eglinton Lawrence, Etobicoke Lakeshore, Humber River, Black Creek,
Okay.
and Toronto St. Paul's.
That's interesting.
And yeah, so there's a few of those that are tight ridings. So in Toronto, Hamilton.
Not yet.
Hamilton, we had Hamilton East Stony Creek went conservative, so that was a change. Halton region, all conservative, so that's Milton, Oakville. So, and then in Durham region, we're still waiting to hear about Oshawa, which has an NDP incumbent, Jennifer French. So,
you know, to sum it up, it's been a fabulous evening for the governing party, the Progressive Conservatives. They have picked up a substantial number of new seats. The NDP is the big loser tonight. They've dropped, by our count, 11 seats from the 2018 election. The Liberals are actually up one, but with 8 seats. Highly disappointing that they did as poorly as they did when they had you know, hopes and aspirations to be, you know, that much, that many more seats. It's going to be interesting to see how the popular vote splits out between, you know, the 3 parties. Okay, so it's been a fabulous evening, and I want to thank my 2 terrific panelists in Alethea O'Hara-Stevenson and Cheryl Connors. Again, it's been a terrific evening, and I really appreciate you both taking the time and sharing your thoughts and your political astuteness and your passion for this, because we just have a blast. So thanks to everybody in the Rogers Cable TV viewing area for having us. I'm Bruce Walkinshaw. Good night and all the best going forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.